again, traders, and welcome back to the Pro Trader Network. Boy, it was a rough week for me last week in the markets. I'll show you a losing trade that I actually had on Friday. But the reason I was frustrated was I missed a lot of incredible signals. Lots of volatility in the markets at the beginning of the year and lots of trading opportunities, and I have just not been in front of my charts at the right time. So I'm going to try to remedy that by focusing a little bit more on the Asian session where I missed a lot of signals this week. Let's pull in our Euro CAD here. Currently we are way overbought, creating some bearish divergence, price moving up, and our oscillator flat and moving down. Euro Aussie, this is the trade that I had a loser on Friday. I'll show you that one in a minute on a 30-minute chart, but here we have a harmonic completion, A to B, B to C, C to D, and then we begin to roll over. Same situation here with the Pound Aussie, Euro Kiwi, Pound Kiwi. We've got double top, bearish divergence on the dollar CAD. We are way oversold on the Aussie dollar, Aussie yen, and we've begun to rally a little bit on some bullish divergence here on the Kiwi dollar and Kiwi yen. So those are the pairs I'm primarily looking at. We've got the pound dollar and pound yen in oversold territory, but we haven't created a double bottom and we haven't created the second wave to look at a potential reversal here yet on the 1 hour. Lots of volatility on Friday in these pairs. You can see these massive sell-offs starting to reverse to the upside, massive sell-off. About 500 pips here on the Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie, Euro Kiwi, and Pound Kiwi. We had oil continuing to sell off at record lows, and the European exchanges and the US exchanges selling off as well. When I looked at the market, the Dow had sunk to about 529, 530, and massive sell-offs in China created these commodity-related sell-offs on the Aussie and the Kiwi. So what am I looking at the beginning of the week? Like I said, looking for this Euro Aussie to retest a high and then continue to the downside. We shall see. Same thing with the Pound Aussie. Euro Kiwi coming in to some structure here. We blew past this resistance. We'll see if this support here can hold, or if this resistance here on this shoulder will hold. We've got the Pound Kiwi selling off, looking to retest these lows here, but I'm looking here at the CAD for this double top bearish divergence as well, and I've got a symmetrical double bottom here with a rally on the Kiwi yen. We'll see if this particular support becomes resistance right here. So just kind of looking at the 1 hour charts overall to see how the market opens and if the sentiment for this coming week will change the direction of some of these crosses. Let me show you that trade I took on Friday, and I'll explain to you why I took it and what my mistake was. Alright, here's that Euro Aussie trade I took on Friday. I actually placed my entry on a 30-minute chart. Here's the trade. I had a harmonic completion. Here's my A to B, B to C, C to D. I had this C to D leg marked on my chart. I was showing bearish divergence right here, price moving up, oscillator moving down, and I had a cross here, my RSI crossing my trade signal line coming out of this extreme overbought zone. But here was my mistake, traders. I got short, and the market, right before the London-New York overlap had finished, pushed back up and took out my stop right here. You can see here was my stop loss right here, this little red line. My profit target was down here. Here's the 618 retracement on this last rally that I had put in based on this swing high right here and the completion of this CD leg, harmonic completion, A to B, B to C, and C to D. So I had a very nice signal here. But here was my problem. Look right here at my market baseline, and I tell you guys over and over again, we like to see that market baseline in the extreme. Here's what happened. Look at the market baseline moves above to the extreme 68 after this last gas push of the London-New York overlap. And what happens? We have a nice inverted hammer, or a pin bar as some of you call it, and then the market starts to sell off. And like many times when we trade, we have a good strategy or we have a good analysis, but our timing is off. And in this particular case, this trade was a 120 pip stop loss with about a 180 pip take profit. So a 1 to 1.5. And I got stopped out. And that's what happens. But what I do on a counter trend divergence trade, I pull back on my risk. So even though I lost 120 pips on this trade, it was not significant in terms of my account equity. It was less than 1%. And again, the mistake that I made was I didn't wait for this market baseline to get into the extreme. You can see here we still have divergence overall, this wave down to this wave, oscillator declining, while price continued to rally. And as always happens after we get stopped out, of course, the market totally turns, and this move to the downside that I missed was not from the top though, but we would have waited for this candle to close to get short. That was about 132 pips sell off. So late fade of this overall rally on Friday. So this is what happens. You get these massive, massive, massive rallies, especially on Fridays or late in the afternoon, and then they just fade off in this sell and retrace a little bit. So that was my big loser for the week. And again, my frustration was lots of signals during the Asian session this week that I simply just missed. Our job is to adapt, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'll get back in the saddle this week and we'll recover these pips and put some more in our account. No reason to get angry or frustrated, traders. Just have to focus, pay attention, and emblazon this setup into my head and realize, as I always say, that patience pays, and wait for this final last gasp from the London-New York overlap and wait for my market baseline to be into the extreme. And you can see, had I done that, this would have been an excellent retrace sell trade after this harmonic completion and this massive 500 pip rally on the Euro Aussie. Thanks for spending time here at the Pro Trader Network, and as always, let's stay focused, follow our rules, and I'll see you next time.